George Lucas drove this car to a life-changing event. Let's get started. Modesto, California. It's in the Central Valley of California. It's an agricultural community. And on this day, June 12th, 1962, we're going to talk about an event that happened that would change the life of George Lucas and his direction. George Lucas's senior picture from 1962. He attended Thomas Downey High School, and this event that happened on June 12th happened 3 days before his high school graduation. Now, this Italian sports car, I'm very bad at pronouncing Italian names, so here's the manufacturer and the model of the car. And my research on this car, it turns out it was the forefather of the Fiat 500. Not a bad little car. Now this car, had some pretty good performance specs for 1960s, early 1960s. And George would take it to his one shop that he dealt with and got some modifications made to it to soup it up, make it a little bit more of a hot rod. And he would take this to local fairs and raced it around Central California. George had dreams of becoming a race car driver and or mechanic. This was the Central Modesto Library back in the day, and George Lucas would come here to study for school and do book reports and research and all that for his high school classes. And once he finished, he was going to head home driving his sports car to his parents' new home, which was off of Sylvan. And back then, Sylvan was just a 2-lane country road. Now, as George was making his way down Sylvan towards his parents' home, he wasn't aware, is the understanding, that his classmate was behind him, following him. And at one point, the driver of that Chevrolet Impala, his classmate, wanted to race by George's car, so he started to pass him on the left-hand side of the roadway on the driver's side of George Lucas's car. As George was approaching and preparing to make his left-hand turn into his parents' driveway, not knowing or seeing that classmate coming up on him in the left lane, he turned in front of him and the Impala collided with the driver's side door and causing the car to flip. His car rolled 3 times before striking a walnut tree where it came to a rest. Now the first flip, his seatbelt held. During the second roll, his seatbelt broke and he was ejected from the vehicle. And the third roll slammed the car into the walnut tree. And everyone, all the experts said if he would still been in the car, he probably would have been crushed and killed. As you can see in this photo, the car was pretty crushed and beat up, and you can almost tell if George would still been in the car, he probably would definitely have been killed. Man, if that would have happened, we wouldn't have had any of his big blockbusters, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and American Graffiti, and other movies and other productions that him and his production company did. Now, George had to be thinking while he sat in the hospital about James Dean dying in a sports car as well, 7 years prior to his wreck in 1955, and James Dean wasn't so lucky. His mechanic was ejected from the vehicle and survived, but James Dean stayed in the vehicle and was killed. So that had to be part of his decision, with his wreck and that famous wreck. It had to be in his part in his brain. George spent the next 3 months in the Modesto City Hospital recovering from his severe injuries, damage to his lungs and broken ribs and all the other injuries that he had caused of the wreck, which gave him a lot of time to think about being a race car driver and what he wanted to do with his future. He thought about going back to school, changing careers, and talked to his parents about going to film school, and both of them told him not just no, hell no. The first step George took was to enroll in the Modesto Junior College and start working on taking a couple classes and start building the credits he needs for his degree. In school, George has always had a love for photography and kept working on building his photography skills and starting to mess a little bit with film. Through the help of some professional contacts, he was able to get into the film school at University of Southern California, where he ultimately graduated from with a film degree. And he was making tons of little movies and snippets while in college, and he was building his passion for that. George had said in many interviews the first years as a filmmaker were pretty thin. He was borrowing money from friends and family just to help him produce movies and move on to the next project. But finally, after years of work and building a reputation, George was able to start making some blockbuster movies. Like American Graffiti and Indiana Jones and Star Wars and more to come. His production company made a lot of different movies in a lot of different genres. But I think the most successful franchise for him was Star Wars. And probably second was probably Indiana Jones. I can't wait for the latest Indiana Jones movie to be released next year in July. Hit the theaters then. George was a car guy in high school, and even today, George Lucas is still a big car guy. And that could be seen in Star Wars, because the X-Wing fighters, he even said this in an interview, that was what gave him the idea for that look and design was the dragster. As you can see here in the top corner, dragster don't look much different than an X-Wing fighter. In Star Wars, the pod racers, that's definitely a hot rod, bucket tee type feel, or a rat rod. Now the Mandalorian, his new spaceship and the modifications that were made to that, also like a bucket tee, a hot rod, maybe again a rat rod feel. George always said in several interviews that everyone said he should have died on June 12th, 1962 in that car wreck. And he said each day is a plus, a bonus day that I get each day that I wake up the next day. I get a bonus day. So he decided to take advantage of all these bonus days by building his life and chasing his dreams. One single day for granted. And think that's what he's preaching, to all of us. That life is short. Things can happen in your life. And you shouldn't waste one single day. And as Walt Disney said, keep moving forward. Now that brings an end of another episode here at Gearhead Man. I do thank you for watching, and let me know what you think about this episode in the comments below. I will include some links to different George Lucas ventures in the description. And thank you for being a subscriber. Thank you for watching. And if you're not a subscriber, definitely hit that red subscribe button and give us a like. And definitely hit the bell icon. That way you get a notification every time a new episode posts. Again, all right. Thank you. We'll see you next week.